I have a bit of a beef, and so I'm going to raise it now. Assistant Secretary Connor, over the last 2 years, we have provided $82 million for the Army Corps WIFIA program to provide low-interest loans for local dam safety projects. The implementation for this program has been stalled. We have been clear, and I think to ignore congressional intent in this manner regarding how taxpayer dollars shall be spent is really not acceptable. My state, California, has 89 dams which are in less than satisfactory condition and would cause loss of life or significant economic damage if they were to fail. Dam safety has been a priority for mine as an appropriator since I've come to the Senate, and it's critical to millions of Americans who live near these dams. When will you finalize? Apparently, we have $14 million a year and a half ago there. So the question is, when will you finalize the program rules and get out these funds so we can start repairing dangerously deficient non-federal dams?
Madam Chair, thank you for your leadership in this area. It's a legitimate beef that you have. Absolutely. So we have a proposed rulemaking that we are in the final throes. I expect that within the next month or so, hopefully no more than 6 weeks, we will be in the Federal Register with that proposed rulemaking, which is the first step to setting up the program. The WIFIA program and enlisting the ability for private dam owners to repair and modify their dams, it's part of the resilience agenda that we need in this era of climate change. So it's another important tool. We're moving forward. And lastly, I would just note, we've lit a fire under ourselves because WIFIA is now in the President's budget for 2023. So we acknowledge the importance of the program. We've got to move forward and get it stood up to address all the reasons you just mentioned.
So I want to understand this. I have your word here that it's going to move.
You have my word. I'm going to do everything possible to move it through and get it in the Federal Register in the next 1 to 2 months.
Well, I accept that with thanks, so thank you. Senator Kennedy, you're next.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out that Senator Hoeven just called me. He is on his way. I'd like to, and if we could indulge him for a few minutes, because I know John has some questions he wants to ask. I wanted to ask one of my colleagues a question. Senator Hyde-Smith, I listened with interest about your situation in Mississippi. As I appreciate it, the Corps wants to go forward and the EPA won't?
Pretty much correct that that's what has happened. The EPA is the one that put the brakes on, and we had signed the MOUs. We had done everything, and the science was very, very strong. And the amazing thing is the two different sets of scientists with EPA and with the Corps have not sat down. And I think that is critical. Am I correct, Daniel? They have not sat down together, and I don't know why that has not happened. But I really, really would like to see that happen. And thank you for the discussion, because literally a lady who was pregnant died because of this flooding. And, you know, we talk about wetlands, we talk about everything else. 6 months, these houses were underwater, this property was underwater, 6 months. And, you know, I talked to so many people who were living in hotel rooms, who were living with relatives in the back of businesses that people allowed them to leave. These people cannot afford hotel rooms and other areas like that.
Well, can I ask, why haven't the two sets of scientists talked? Or they have these things called telephones at a minimum.
Sir, so our team from Vicksburg and the scientists have sat down and compared data. What may be happening is...
with EPA and with the Corps, yes, the two sets?
Yes, ma'am. What may be happening is new staff that have come in within the past several months of the past year, but we will pack up this afternoon to go meet...
Directly into the mic. It's hard to
Yes, ma'am. So my parting comment is we will pack up this afternoon and meet with any scientist from any federal agency or state agency that would like to compare notes on our data.
Yeah, the Corps is very willing. EPA is the one that we can't get to seem to get as interested as.
Senator, can I just add very quickly?
Yeah, but let me put a finer point on it. Here's what I'm missing. The Corps spent a lot of time and money doing this project, did its studies, decided there's no damage, no damage to wetlands. The leadership at EPA changed. One of the leadership's priorities is environmental justice, and the EPA is saying, in the name of environmental justice, we're going to hold up on this project, even though this project will help people who happen to be 70% African Americans. Am I missing something here?
I would just add, I don't speak for EPA, but I have spoken to Administrator Regan and Assistant Administrator Fox. They are strongly committed to getting their team with our team as part of this interagency group. I think the administrator was particularly moved by his visit down to the Yazoo Basin. So frustrating, yes, but we're going to get together.
When's your administrator going to make a decision?
Well, we've got to get the teams together and not just have them meet and explain the differences. We as leaders have to reconcile those differences so we can make a decision about the project that can move forward.
Well, how about next week?
We're getting together our interagency group tomorrow at the leadership level and having yet another meeting. And the goal is to then focus the issues so that we can get our teams to get into those details,
right,
so we can recommend.
I'm just trying to get a timeline. The Corps spent a lot of time and money. It says we're ready to go. It's passed all the studies. The scientists say go. Y'all have because of the change in leadership, have said, nope, we're holding up. And we got to make a decision. When? I'm just asking a simple question. When are you going to make a decision?
As soon as we can.
I don't.
That's hopefully we're going to be working on this all year.
It's going to take a year?
Well, it's going to take some time to reconcile the differences between the agencies.
Why?
Because there are disagreements about the science. We as leaders can convene folks, we can focus the issues, but we've got to have that dialogue, and that's going to take a little bit of a time.
I don't understand why. I don't get it. I don't understand why you can't put the two scientists together, lock them in a room, give them some coffee, give them a few honey buns, and say, okay, here over the next 8 hours, work this out. I don't get it. That's the way the real world works. Why can't you do that?
Well, we are going to do that. Whether
When?
whether the 8 hours is what it's going to take, or whether it's going to take 24 or 48 of intense dialogue, I don't know the answer to the question. I just know that we're committed to forcing that process to happen and coming up with a project.
You understand why people get frustrated with
Absolutely.
government? Okay? I can't even, I'm just asking for a decision. I'm not telling you what decision to make. I just don't see why you can't do it within 6 weeks.
I understand the frustration. I'm part of a committed team that's going to get to a decision, Senator.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks again for all your good work, gentlemen and ladies.
And 6 weeks would be great.
Okay. Senator Hyde-Smith?
Sure. Hey, you are my honey bun. Shifting gears from flood control to innovation, Congress is asking the Corps to do a lot of things with the record high funding the Corps has received in recent years. I want to make sure you have the tools you'll need to be successful. Part of what you'll need is innovation and to be able to access the innovation taking place in the private sector. Sometimes the rigid structure of the federal acquisition process doesn't make that very easy for you. To address that very problem, Congress gave NASA, DOD, and a number of other agencies, other transaction authority, OTA, has been used to great effects by the Department of Defense, including the Corps of Engineers, to access innovative solutions and cutting-edge technologies from entities that aren't traditional federal contractors. Unfortunately, the Department of Defense reads the law as providing OTA only for the Corps' military mission, not the Civil Works mission. Given all that we're asking you to do, you need these important tools, would be what most people would conclude. But Secretary Connor and General Spellman, don't you think having the ability to use other transaction authority in your Civil Works mission would be a useful tool for you to have?
Senator, we do. As you suggested, we've used this on several projects in our military construction program, and I would argue to great effect. And we also think there's value in bringing this over to the Civil Works program. I have just not had the opportunity yet to sit down with Mr. Connor to talk about this particular tool, but you have our commitment. We'll have that conversation, ma'am.
And as Congress works on the next Water Resources Development Act, will you work with me to help put that tool in your hands?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to bring up a subject that is of real concern to me. The Bureau and several states have already severely reduced water allocations, in many cases to zero. And I'm a Westerner, and I'm from a big state. It's 40 million people. It's a huge commercial state. It's a big ag state. But there's no way the West can survive extreme droughts plus climate change without more investment in infrastructure to move water from the wet years to the dry ones. WIN Act funding, I think, and I wrote the bill, is key to developing long-term solutions to these challenges. And last year, we provided an additional $155 million to WIN Act funding for water storage, desal, and water recycling and reuse projects. So I've continued to work with my colleagues to appropriate funding for good projects, but the President's budget recommends no funding for any of these projects. And I'm curious as to why.
Senator, thank you very much for that question. The way the Bureau of Reclamation is looking at the WIN Act projects, we were able to make a lot of progress on getting projects determined feasible, getting projects started with funding, and we're now utilizing the bill funding, the bipartisan infrastructure law funding in large storage to put towards some of those WIN projects. We're going to be making an announcement in later this fiscal year in 22 using that bill funding to advance those WIN-related projects, and we also have queued up money for 23 out of bill funding for those WIN Act projects. So we absolutely thank the subcommittee on supporting those projects, getting them moving, and we're going to keep them moving because the WIN Act authority expired, but we're going to keep them moving with bill funding.
Well, thank you very much for that. We will follow closely and see if it happens. Please know that this is a big problem out west. And one of the things that I've seen is how big this country is when you fly back and forth over it. And I'm really concerned. So this is a top priority for me, and I believe for California. So I thank you for that answer. And my expectation will be that the administration will respond. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I want to say one more
Please,
thing,
go ahead.
Madam Chair. First, I'm going to just repeat what I've said before, what a delight it is to work with you, Madam Chair, and your very able staff. I just want to, I'm going to be calling you gentlemen. I need to get updates on 3 projects that I know you're working on. That are really important in my state, have become more important recently. The Calcasieu River and Pass, we need some dredging done there. It's a major LNG export hub. And we need to get it to 42 feet deep and about 800 feet wide. Our Chaffalaya, I know you know the projects I'm talking about, our Chaffalaya River dredging. We've got to maintain the authorized depth of 20 feet deep and a bottom width of 400 feet. And finally, last but certainly not least, I don't mention these in any particular order, our New Orleans to Venice Hurricane Protection Project. So I'll just be calling you to try to get an update. And again, I wanted to thank you for giving so much to our country.
That was nice. Very nice, Senator. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome, Senator.